So the Pittsburgh Steelers are not only still trying to figure out their quarterback situation, but the best player on their team also wants a massive extension, or he could be saying deuces. He's still under contract, so that's easier said than done, but Pittsburgh did themselves no favors by waiting because multiple pass rushers have recently gotten massive paydays. Well, it's safe to say they have some tough decisions to make, and in today's video, I'll talk about that, Allen Lazard restructuring his contract, the Colts swapping kickers, and more right after. Alright, first up, it looks like Allen Lazard will be sticking around with the New York Jets for at least one more season after all. He restructured his contract today, and it was a big restructure to say the least. He's taken an $8.5 million pay cut from the $11 million he was scheduled to make in 2025. Sheesh! That was his base salary for this upcoming season, and it was actually not guaranteed, so many people thought he would be a cut candidate. Well, instead, they brought his cap hit down from $13.2 million all the way to $4.6 million, though there is an additional $4.4 million in dead money for 2026. They actually voided the final year of his deal as well, which was supposed to be 2026 after he signed that 4-year, $44 million deal before the 2023 season. Then they guaranteed $1.75 million in this new restructure, so he at least has a little bit of guarantees, whereas before he had basically none. It appears to be a win-win for both sides, honestly. The Jets free up a good chunk of cap space while still retaining their third leading receiver from a season ago. For Lazard, he gets a little bit of guarantees and a chance to prove himself on what is now essentially a one-year deal. He's only 29 years old and could still cash in maybe on a 1, 2, 3 max year deal next year. We'll see about that, but the Jets could very well still go receiver in the draft regardless of Lazard, but as it currently stands with Devontae Adams signing with the Rams, Lazard is the wide receiver 2 behind Garrett Wilson for the time being. His time in New York definitely hasn't gone as they hoped, as he had a really underwhelming 2023 season with just 23 catches and 1 touchdown. Last year was definitely much better, over 500 yards and 6 touchdowns, but he landed on IR with a chest injury midway through the season and missed 5 games. So what you were gonna have to pay him in 2025, that 13 point whatever million dollars it was, not worth it from a production standpoint over the last 2 years. So hopefully Lazard can stay healthy and have a productive enough season to where he can drive his value up a bit before he hits free agency next offseason. So while Lazard appears to be safe, Colts kicker Matt Gay was indeed not safe, as Indy cut ties with him today in a move that did save them around $3 million in cap space. On one hand, it's a little surprising because just 2 years ago, they gave him a massive 4-year, $22.5 million deal, the most amount of money ever given to a free agent kicker at the time. On the other hand, the writing was on the wall for a couple of reasons. He struggled massively over the last 2 years in Indy, going 64 of 78 on field goals and just 11 of 22 on attempts of 50 yards or longer. He finished 25th in field goal percentage last year and 27th in 2023, which is obviously nowhere near good enough for somebody who was still the 4th highest paid kicker in the NFL last season. I know he's also battled through some injuries and all that, but in this day and age, kickers have to be reliable from 50-ish yards. There's just no place for them not to be, no excuses, because the overall talent level of kickers coming into the NFL just continues to rise, and you can get some of these guys pretty cheap. Well, the other part of the reason why it's not that surprising Matt Gay is gone is because Spencer Schrader is going to be their guy who just signed a 2-year deal with them about a month ago. So eyebrows raised when they had 2 kickers on long-term deals, but it now makes complete sense. Now, another player who's hoping to come back better than last time we saw him was quarterback Deshaun Watson. He posted this workout video to his Instagram yesterday, I believe, and he had a message for his critics as well.
Everyone's doubting me. Everyone don't believe in me. Everyone don't think that I can get back to where I was, but I know I'm going to be way better than before.
Well, we will certainly see about that one. He tore his Achilles in October of 2022, then ruptured it again back in January. The most recent examples we have of quarterbacks tearing their Achilles would obviously be Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins. Both of them are much older than Deshaun Watson, all things considered, but Rodgers tore his week 1 of the 2023 season, while Kirk tore his in week 8 of that year. They had 10 to 12 months to recover, while Deshaun would have around 8 before the start of training camp. And the fact that he tore it not once, but twice makes a return in 2025 seem pretty unlikely. But let's be honest here. He's been awful the last 3 seasons when actually out there on the football field. He's only played in 19 games as a Brown since joining the team in 2022. He served that 11-game suspension that year, then missed another 11 games in 2023 with a shoulder injury. Then, of course, he missed the final 10 games of last season with the Achilles tear. So yeah, I would say the odds are definitely stacked against him, and would be surprised if we see him back in 2025. Though I won't rule it out completely because there is a possibility there. And while Browns owner Jimmy Haslam recently admitted what we all knew to be true when he said, quote, "We took a big swing and miss with Deshaun, you think?" That fully guaranteed contract that he has is not going anywhere. Look at this. Watson's cap hit for 2026 is $80.7 million at this point in time. They'll probably restructure him again, but still, $80.7 million cap hit while his dead money is at $131 million. So they could potentially move on from him in 2026, but it would hurt a lot. It would hurt a piss ton. Let's just be honest here. I think Watson also knows this, and so he's going to try his damnedest to make a comeback, even though you could argue they have only been worse with him out there on the football field. If I'm the Browns, I'm going to try to accept the huge L of that disastrous trade and contract and try and draft a quarterback this year. I mean, you could take Shedeur Sanders at 2. Some feel that is reaching, so maybe you trade back into round 1 at some point and try to get him. Or maybe you could try to trade for Kirk Cousins, because the truth is, they can't really know if Deshaun will ever play again, and they need to operate as if he's not really an option regardless of how much money he's costing them. Now, another player in the AFC North also made quite a bit of noise on social media yesterday, and that was one of the best pass rushers in all of football, TJ Watt. He posted this picture of him pulling a Tyreek Hill, throwing up the peace sign on his Instagram. Cryptic posts. You love to see it. That's the part of the offseason we're in. It's also a part of the game these days with players. It's just noteworthy because TJ Watt is heading into the final year of his current 4-year, $112 million deal, and he's going to be looking for an extension. He also just saw Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, and Danielle Hunter get new deals that made them the 3 highest paid edge rushers in football, and considering he's outproduced all of them in his career, I wouldn't be surprised if he wanted to become the highest paid. Well, that would mean making over $40 million per year, which is where Myles Garrett's annual value is at. That's a tough pill to swallow, monetarily speaking, considering Watt is going to be 31 years old this year, but he's remained very productive, playing every regular season game the last 2 years, and he's racked up 30.5 sacks, which is absolutely mind-blowing. Since coming into the NFL in 2017, though, Watt has 108 sacks. That's the most in the league in that span. He also has the most forced fumbles by far since then and tied Michael Strahan's single-season sack record back in 2021. And after suffering that major pec injury that kept him out of 7 games in 2022, again, he has not missed a single game since. On paper, he is absolutely deserving to be the highest paid defensive player in the league, and I know the age thing makes it a little bit difficult, but for what it's worth, Myles Garrett is just a year younger than TJ, and he's under contract through 2030, so it certainly wouldn't be out of the realm of possibilities for TJ Watt to sign a long-term deal with Pittsburgh. But if they can't agree to something this offseason, I guess there's a few ways this could play out. Obviously, they could let him just play out the last year of his deal, try to work something out next offseason, or even franchise tag him if they had to. You run the risk of pissing off your franchise player, but it is an option. Another risk with that is he could just decide to hold out and make things ugly if a deal isn't reached ahead of training camp. That remains to be seen if he would do all that, but if the Steelers really want to go crazy here, how about a trade? Maybe even on draft night. They could explore the possibility of getting something done. Chris Sims thinks the asking price for Watt would be a first rounder, a second rounder, and maybe even more on top of that. The question is, would that really be enough of a return for the Steelers to justify losing the best defensive player in the league? I personally have a hard time seeing that happening, especially if they sign Aaron Rodgers, which appears like that's what's going to happen. We'll see what Aaron Rodgers decides to actually end up doing. But if they do that with Rodgers, they are built to win right now. They just traded for DK Metcalf and are likely adding Rodgers. I know I talked in a recent video of them maybe getting a quarterback like Jalen Milroe at pick 21 in the draft. but that's not really going to put you in a place to win now. That's why I don't think a team that is positioning themselves to make a playoff run would trade their best defensive player away, but we have seen crazier things happen in this league. There was a point in time when I said, hey, the Chiefs are never going to trade away Tyreek Hill, and lo and behold, they did it. So it could happen. But the only way that it really makes sense for me is if they got an absolute haul for TJ Watt and maybe even a franchise quarterback in return. I'm talking like a long-term solution at QB, but that is way easier said than done. And most teams, if they have a franchise quarterback, they're not going to part ways with said quarterback. So with all that being said, what do you guys think about this? Should the Steelers do what they can to keep Watt around for years to come, i.e. pay him a piss ton of money because he definitely deserves it? Or what do you think they should do? Let me know in the comments down below. And with that, I'll see y'all next time.